neatly stacked in cupboards. 500 rupees, 200 rupees and 100 rupees notes stashed separately in separate shelves. Not one, not two, multiple cupboards being searched. Multiple cash counting machines have heated up and broken down. Prime Minister Narendra Modi shares video of the cash recovery. Reiterates Modi guarantee to recover looted cash. 200 crore and counting cash haul is our top focus on the Newstrack. The money is still being counted. Even as we speak, some cash counting machines have actually conked off. Prime Minister Narendra Modi wants the nation to look at these piles of notes and listen to speeches about honesty of the leaders. But the sting is in the tail. The Prime Minister then goes on to say, whatever has been looted from the public, every penny will be returned. This, he insists, is Modi's guarantee. Now, is the opposition on the back foot on the issue of corruption? Two instances today, unrelated but both extremely significant. Mahua Moitra expelled from Lok Sabha as Member of Parliament in a cash for query case, and then of course the search operations that are currently underway at multiple locations. We'll get you all details. I'm Gaurav Sawant as always. Let's get started with the headlines. Mahua Moitra expelled from Lok Sabha, claims ethics panel acted without evidence. Mamata Banerjee backs Mahua Moitra, calls her a victim of circumstances. No consensus yet on who would be the BJP's chief minister for the three Hindi heartland states. Shivraj Singh Chauhan makes a big claim, says no post bigger than that of being an uncle and a brother. Big Mahayuti showdown over out on bail. NCP leader Nawab Malik, Devendra Fadnavis and Eknath Shinde oppose Malik's induction. Ajit Pawar's NCP faction backs him. Siddaramaiah government stokes a fresh controversy. Priyank Kharge claims Savarkar posters should be removed from the Vidhan Sauda. BJP lashes out, threatens statewide protests. Russian President Vladimir Putin hails Prime Minister Narendra Modi, insists Prime Minister stern on protecting India's national interest and is not scared to take tough calls despite external pressure. So the searches have been on for the past 2 days and counting. Additional teams and machines are now being sent to finish the counting of cash because some machines have conked off. The Income Tax Department had leads about liquor taxes not being paid and money being siphoned off. The locations where the searches are on are being linked to a senior Congress party leader and Rajya Sabha member of Parliament, Dheeraj Sahu. India Today's Munish Pandey has been tracking the story very closely and gets us our top story tonight.
Almirahs full of cash, running into crores of rupees. This is what the income tax officials found in their raids on businesses linked to Congress's Rajya Sabha MP from Jharkhand, Dheeraj Sahu. The raids targeting Bodh Distilleries Private Limited and Baldio Sahu and group of companies started on Wednesday. Among the locations raided are offices, factories and houses linked to the MP's family and associates in Sambalpur, Bolangir, Titilagad, Bodh, Sundargarh, Rourkela, Bhubaneswar in Odisha and Ranchi, and Lohardaga in Jharkhand. The two raided companies are run by the MP and his relatives. The recovered money is kept at the SBI branches in Sambalpur and Bolangir, where the counting is still on. While 8 machines are being used to count the notes, more units may be brought in. The Income Tax Department is yet to give a formal statement, but sources say the cash haul exceeds 210 crore rupees. The IT will now trace the source of the money to see if it's accounted for or illegal. The raids have sparked a political showdown in Jharkhand.
जो व्यवसायी होंगे उनके पास पैसे नहीं होंगे, हाँ, उनके अडानी अंबानी के घर में अगर देखा जाए तो, हाँ, तो व्यवसाय जो करेंगे उसका उनका जो व्यवसाय है कच्चे का व्यवसाय है, ये नहीं जानते लोग, हाँ, उनके पास डेली नगद पैसे आते हैं करोड़ों रुपए में। ये सारी चीज़ों को भी देखना चाहिए। ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी के लोगों को राज्य के हित से, राज्य के विकास से, राज्य की जनता के सुख दुख से कोई लेना देना नहीं है। इन्हें सिर्फ और सिर्फ कीचड़ उछालना है। इतने पैसे मिले कि मशीन खराब हो जाए, मशीन जवाब दे दे, तो ये पैसे कोई कांग्रेसी सांसद या कांग्रेसी विधायक के पास ही हो सकते हैं। मैं तो कहता हूं कि ये सीधे सीधे मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग का भी मामला है। इसमें इन्फोर्समेंट जो डायरेक्टरेट है उनको इंटरवेन करना चाहिए और गहन इसकी जांच करनी चाहिए और जो भी दोषी है कड़ी से कड़ी सजा मिलनी चाहिए।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi cited the cash haul to target the opposition and said all ill-gotten money will be accounted for. The Jharkhand BJP has demanded an ED probe against the Congress MP. Dheeraj Sahu and his relatives have a thriving liquor business in Odisha where they run distilleries. With Satyajit Kumar, Bureau Report, India Today.
And the Prime Minister, when he took to that social media platform, he spoke of Modi's guarantee that every penny would be accounted for and every penny of the taxpayer would be brought back into the system. He'd made this promise earlier. Let's listen in.
इन पार्टियों के पास घोटालों का ही अनुभव है, इसलिए अगर कोई गारंटी है इनकी तो एक ही गारंटी है, घोटालों की गारंटी। अब देश को तय करना है क्या ये घोटालों की गारंटी को देश स्वीकार करेगा। मैं आपके बीच में से पल करके बड़ा हुआ हूं, तो आज मैं भी एक गारंटी देना चाहता हूं। अगर उनकी घोटाले की गारंटी है तो मोदी की भी एक गारंटी है और मेरी गारंटी है, हर घोटालेबाज पर कार्रवाई की गारंटी, हर चोर लुटेरे पर कार्रवाई की गारंटी।
So two major developments today, of course both completely unrelated, but both connected with opposition members of parliament. Mahua Moitra expelled as Lok Sabha MP in a cash for query case. Opposition alleges vendetta. Income tax searches on properties linked to Congress Rajya Sabha MP Dheeraj Sahu. Once again, the opposition says this is misuse of government machinery to target opposition leaders. But the question is, does this weaken the opposition's attack on the Narendra Modi government, or does it strengthen their case that this is a government witch hunt misusing official machinery? Joining me on this special broadcast, Aparajita Sarangi, BJP Member of Parliament and spokesperson, Syed Abbas is a political analyst who will give us the Congress Party perspective, and Dr. Vikram Singh is former Director General of Police, once again to give us a legal perspective on this matter. But my first question is to India Today's Munish Pandey, tracking the story very closely. Munish, what's the latest with these searches and the alleged link to an opposition MP?
Well, Gaurav, as far as Income Tax Department is concerned, what we have been given to understand is that the initial tip-off by the income tax officials was that there is a liquor company which is involved in tax evasion and there is illegal unaccounted money with them. Now, when the IT department started probing, they got to know that this company and the individuals linked to this company also have links with Congress Rajya Sabha member Deepak Sahu, and when his premises were raided, unaccounted money in huge amount was recovered by the IT officials. So far, we have been given to understand is that the IT officials have counted more than 210 crore rupees in 9 almiras, and the counting is still going on, and they are expecting that it might go beyond 250 crore rupees. Gaurav.
Keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. Aparajita Sarangi, the opposition says this is government witch hunt. Government machinery is being used to target opposition leaders. You heard Mitesh Thakur, Jharkhand minister, who said these are people who are engaged in the business where a lot of cash comes in. It's deposited at an appropriate time. Keval कीचड़ उछाल रही है सरकार.
Here is a Rajya Sabha MP from Congress who is indulging in corruption, and everything is out. We are seeing the notes splashed on the television screens. And I think this reflects the policy of the Congress, and at the same time, this reflects the policy and intention of Prime Minister Modi's government. We have heard Prime Minister Modi today. He is up in arms against anybody who indulges in corruption. घोटालों की जांच होगी और घोटाला करने वालों पर वार होगा. That's what Prime Minister Modi says. In fact, if you see the track record of 9 years of Prime Minister Modi's government, there has hardly been any scam. And compare this particular period with the yesteryears. The number of scams that were there, I think one page in a notebook was not enough to list out those.
Let me take this then to Sayyid Abbas.
As I said earlier, I repeat, this reflects the culture of the Congress.
Fair enough.
And here is a government which means transparency and honesty. Yes.
You say it means transparency and honesty. Sayyid Abbas, 200 crore and counting. Machines have counted off, cash is still being counted. Now, is the MP whose name is being linked to the searches and premises accountable or not? Because is there merit in the BJP asking why are Mallikarjun Kharge and Sonia Gandhi silent on these searches?
My dear friend Gaurav, the interesting pattern and point here is undoubtedly I completely accept and agree to the fact that there needs to be a clear-cut investigation on this. Let them be probed. The accountants of Mr. Dheeraj Sahu are answerable to the CBI, EDIT accordingly and respectively. But the fact of the matter, if Dheeraj Sahu needs to come out of this, all he needs to do is join a washing machine party like a BJP, like Himanta Biswa Sarma, Mukul Roy, Suvendu Adhikari, who after joining them slowed down the process of CBI, EDIT. Because BJP is a washing machine, sir. Any corrupt neta needs to enter this party and get out clean. Any case updates on the Sharda chit fund scam? Aparajita ji, can you answer me? Isn't it true? Not just that. Agar घोटालों पे war होना है, corruption पे war होना है, let me tell you, Lok Ayukta raided a BJP MLA Virupaksha. His son was caught accepting a bribe of 40 lakhs rupees. What is the update on that? Why he doesn't speak on that?
Your point is action is one-sided. Dr. Vikram Singh, merit in the opposition saying government machinery is being used just to target opposition leaders when cash machines conk off and when money counting process remains in progress even after 2 days. Is this targeting just of the opposition, sir?
Gaurav ji, it seems that loot ki dukaan has really indeed very deep pockets. Sweeping generalizations will not serve the purpose of justice in the sense that all these raids and investigations are in the purview of judicial scrutiny. It is not for any independent investigating agency to pile up or trump up charges. It is impossible to sweep these 250 crore rupees underneath the carpet. Somebody has to explain, especially Mr. Dheeraj, our honorable member of parliament, who declared his income as 1 crore in the year 2018 and also his assets to 34 crores with 2 crores of loan. Where have these 250 crores come from? This is something he's a lot of explaining to do. And under these circumstances to say that it is witch hunting, I don't think it is a police station or a chowki or any department has it in them to plant 250 crores like this. Currency machines conking off one after the other, and to say that this is a planted charge. Well, you please explain to the ED, because I have a strong lurking suspicion that Prevention of Money Laundering Act will also be invoked apart from the IT Act and other major acts also. It is not a simple getaway. And Gauravji, I think it will take some time for him to come up clean because it is incontrovertible evidence which he will not be able to explain. For a person whose declared assets are 32 lakh crores and annual income of 1 crore, to have a collection of 250 crores will not be easy to explain at all.
Fair enough, but let me take that question that Syed Abbas raised on the BJP washing machine, Aparajita Sarangi, because opposition leaders say the agencies and the processes are all targeted to silence opposition voices. Several opposition leaders who've since joined the BJP no longer have searches, raids, arrests or due process of law being followed. Syed Abbas spoke of the Narda sting, he spoke of the Sharda chit fund, from Suvendu Adhikari to Mukul Roy, to even Narayan Rane, and this finds a mention in that letter that the opposition had written to the Prime Minister about misuse of agencies, ma'am.
So I'll give a very simple answer to this. The people of the nation cannot be fooled. India has really come up over the past so many number of years. People have become very mature. They will definitely not vote for a government which actually does not do what it says. Here is a government which does what it says and what it thinks. We walk the talk. In fact, we have heard Prime Minister Modi number of times everywhere. And this is a government which is extremely popular with the people. The Chhattisgarh election results, the Madhya Pradesh election results, and Rajasthan election results, in fact, are enough to tell all these people, the detractors, the critics, that the people of the nation are with Prime Minister Modi and his policy, his intention and his working culture. I think law will take its course, whosoever he or she is, whether belonging to Bharatiya Janata Party or any other party, heads will roll if the person concerned is indulging in unethical conduct or indulging in corruption. So there is absolutely no sparing. You know, wherever something has happened, we have gone ahead and law has to take its course.
Syed Abbas, the opposition too can approach courts if they think that due process of law is not being followed. But is it not wrong to allege a witch hunt? Take, for example, the current case, the income tax searches that are currently on. Can an individual get away by saying, I'm opposition, I'm targeting the government, therefore government machinery is being used against me, and continue with what may perhaps be illegal? Courts have to decide.
Gaurav sir, I completely accept your point that courts' law is above all else. Any political party or any political minister or a neta. But the fact of the matter is, Aparajita Singh ji mentions about winning Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and the mandate. Respective ma'am, undoubtedly the people have voted for you. But that does not give you a clean sheet that you are all not corrupt. You did not answer me, ma'am. Here in Karnataka, your BJP MLA, Virupaksha's son, was caught accepting bribe on his behalf of rupees 40 lakhs. He is now answerable to the Lokayukta. I see an interesting pattern, ma'am. I'd like to know.
So he's answerable to the Lokayukta, you say. So is due process of law on or not? But we'll get Aparajita Sarangi to respond to that. On individual cases, I want to also bring in Dr. Vikram Singh. These searches that are currently on, sir, does this take the sting out of the opposition attack on the government on the issue of corruption? I'll come to Mahua Moitra in just a moment, but the current instance that you see of these searches that are on and these wads of cash that you see so neatly stacked in that cupboard, sir.
Gauravji, this is most authentic. In my career of 36 years, seldom have I seen this level of convincing recoveries. And to say that these recoveries are planted or they were generated out of cash, as the Honorable Minister of Jharkhand said, that this is a heavy cash transaction business. I have yet to come across a single business that has cash transactions amounting to 250 crores neatly stacked. They may go from a shop to shop where cash transactions of petty amount may happen. But to have a collection of 250 crores is totally unconvincing, bizarre and unacceptable. Well, give this explanation to any court of law or to the PMLA court and see what happens to you. This is absolutely unconvincing. I would like to compliment the IT and the IT officials who conducted this very successful raid. And as you very rightly mentioned, if you have any grievance, please take pains to go to the court and say that this is a perverse and a vindictive action on part of the IT and get an order in your favor. You may have given a list of those perverse actions and those that have been ignored. Again, take pains to go to the court and get a suitable order from the court for appropriate investigation, follow-up and prosecution.
Aparajita Sarangi, the opposition has actually come out all guns blazing in the Mahua Moitra case, for example, alleging, one, that the member of parliament that time was not given an opportunity to defend herself on the floor of the house. They also say this action shows BJP's brute majority and force to silence opposition voices, ma'am.
Parliamentary Standing Committee on Privileges and Ethics sat thrice. And during three sittings, we heard the complainant and the defendant. Now, the defendant was Madam Mahua Moitra. We heard her for more than 1 hour. And you know, there is an expression in English, opportunity of being heard. This opportunity was given to her. We heard her at length, and there were certain questions that had been asked. And you know what happened then and there. In fact, all of you had reported. Certain questions were asked by the chairman of the committee, and she started fuming and fretting. She was extremely angry, very uncomfortable, and she used unparliamentary language for the chairman and walked out of the room. She refused to answer the questions. 1 full day had been dedicated by the committee to listen to her. But after 2 hours of sitting, she went out of the room. We wanted to sit and talk to her and listen to her. Now, at the same time, let me tell you, since I'm a member of the committee,
yes,
we went through the affidavit of Darshan Hiranandani, which was a sworn affidavit, sworn before the Deputy Consulate General of Dubai. Now, thereafter, we also asked for a report, an inquiry report from the Ministry of Information Technology, Electronics, and of course, Ministry of Home Affairs and other related ministries. They also gave their report regarding the truth behind, or rather the fact behind the sharing of login credentials by Mahua Moitra with somebody in Dubai. So I think after looking into everything, the Parliamentary Standing Committee submitted a very comprehensive, detailed report.
Okay.
And the report was discussed today in the Lok Sabha, and we know what happened thereafter. There was voting today, and I must tell you, there was voting 3 times during the sittings of the Parliamentary Standing Committee. Every time the majority voted against Madam Mahua Moitra ji. So today also she lost in the Lok Sabha. So there is something called ethical conduct.
I'm glad, ma'am.
Okay, the principle of natural justice, this claim that falls flat, the BJP says Mahua Moitra had an opportunity to put forward her point of view on the 2nd of November. The ethics committee waited for her. As Aparajita Sarangi says, she fretted, she fumed, she stormed out. That due process was followed, insists the BJP.
Aparajita ji, we are all aware of the affidavit signed by Darshan Hiranandani. But the fact of the matter is, ma'am, when such a serious decision was to be taken, why wasn't this businessman summoned by the panel committee and discussed? No, one mere affidavit is fine. You're a great, respectable member of parliament, and so is Mahua Moitra. There is no evidence on her. There is no proof of cash and gifts. She was not even allowed to speak inside the parliament. Isn't it fair, man? The fact of the matter, Aparajita ji, Simriti Irani, Mahua Moitra, you're all guiding lights for lakhs and crores of women of this country, but you're not given no proof of cash gifts. Why, ma'am? No evidence. Why wasn't Hiranandani summoned for the same by the panel committee? Why? Because he closed cahoots with your government in the dirty tricks department of the BJP? Ma'am, you are a great woman leader, and so is Mahua Moitra. This is not equal, and this is absolutely unfair.
Okay. Ma'am, you want to quickly respond before I bring in Dr. Vikram Singh?
See, in 2005, a similar incident had happened, and 11 members of parliament had been expelled by the then Speaker, Lok Sabha, Shri Somnath Chatterjee ji. At that point of time, also the members of parliament had not been allowed to speak for the simple reason that they had been heard in the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Privileges and Ethics. Once the opportunity of being heard has been given, and she has been heard at length, there is no reason why she should be asked to speak in the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha was deliberating upon the content of the report submitted by the committee, and everybody was heard, both from the ruling dispensation and the opposition party. So I think today again there was voting. As I said earlier, I would repeat, there was voting, and she lost because the majority went against her.
Dr. Vikram Singh,
but where is the proof of the cash?
Dr. Vikram Singh, last 30 seconds that I have on this part of the show. is
It's a
the
question
principle
of
of...
ethical conduct.
Okay, go on, Aprajita Sarangi, quickly finish your point, ma'am.
Aparajita ji, proof of cash and gifts and evidence, ma'am. That's
No,
all
I
I'm
was
asking.
just saying,
Aprajita Sarangi, complete your point, ma'am.
I was just saying that, yes, I was just saying that as a parliamentarian, we are supposed to behave in a certain manner, in a responsible manner. We cannot demonstrate unethical conduct. We cannot behave in a manner unbecoming of a parliamentarian. This is one part. Number two, parliamentary procedures have to be followed. She did not follow those procedures. Number three, the affidavit was sworn. Please remember, I use this word sworn with a lot of emphasis.
Fair enough.
This
Let me quickly get
affidavit
Dr.
was
Vikram
sworn
Singh,
by
last
Darshan
30 seconds that I have on this part of the show. Dr. Vikram Singh, those principles of natural justice would mean the accused is given an opportunity to defend herself. Is Aprajita Sarangi, or is the parliament right in saying, or the speaker right in saying, she had an opportunity in that committee to give her point of view? Here the discussion was only on the findings of that report.
Gaurav ji, I am in no illusion that the honorable members of the Ethics and the Privileges Committee are people with a lot of considerable wisdom and sense of truth, integrity, honesty, and justice. And to question their wisdom of perversion and one-sided action is absolutely nonsensical, and I take the strongest exception to that. Everything was transparent, and who am I to question whether they did not call somebody from Dubai, Hiranandani or whoever, but that it is for them to see who they choose to call, and if there is something on an affidavit, as Aparajita ji has mentioned, something on oath and an affidavit is sufficient and incontrovertible evidence on which reliance can be
where is the
made.
proof of cash and gifts,
Okay,
Vikram sir?
I'll
Absolutely.
more on this story in the days ahead, but I've run out of time on this part of the show. Aprajita Sarangi, Syed Abbas and Dr. Vikram Singh, as always, for joining me here. Many thanks. A quick break. On the other side, Russian President Vladimir Putin has praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and rich praise. He says that the Indian Prime Minister has taken a tough stance and kept the interests of the Indian people top in dealing with the world. That story and lots more coming up. Stay with us.
The true viewership king stands tall. Absolute domination on results day. Viewership super smash.
The live concurrent data clearly shows India today's lead is almost thrice. You could add up Times Now and Republic. Rajdeep, I think you can add all of them and they still won't come to India today.
Since you have advertised this program as double engine, BJP ka double engine clear hai.
Decimates the competition. Viewers reward India's #1 channel. No fakery, no fixing, only facts. India's true #1 channel.
He died over half a century ago, but few figures have proven to be able to polarize like Veer Savarkar. After playing a frontal role in the vicious campaign politics leading up to the Karnataka election this year, and after being brandished by Team Rahul Gandhi as a weapon to bash the Sangh Parivar, the ghost of Savarkar is back, courtesy Karnataka's new leaders. The fresh Savarkar eruption was triggered by this comment. Attacking Savarkar has proven to be potent politically, and in Belagavi, that borders Maharashtra, it is downright incendiary, triggering protests as far as Nagpur and elsewhere in Maharashtra. But many will be wondering what a freshly victorious Karnataka Congress hopes to gain from raking up Savarkar now, especially since Savarkar is a sensitive issue with certain prominent India alliance members. Had in fact been persuaded by ally Sharad Pawar to quit poking a sensitive issue, especially since it annoyed Aghadi partner, the Uddhav Sena. The fresh eruption over Savarkar comes at a time when tremors have already rocked the India alliance. It all now comes down to this portrait, installed by a BJP government in the Belagavi assembly last year and now questioned by a Congress government this week.
चाहे शिंदे गुट की हो, चाहे अजित पवार गुट की हो, ये तो पूरा करप्ट पार्टी आपके साथ बैठी है। तो सिर्फ नवाब मलिक के ऊपर ही क्यों हमला है? नागपुर में दोनों एक साथ बैठे हैं सदन में एक साथ बैठे हैं और पत्र लिखते हैं, पत्राचार करते हैं। हाँ, क्या जमाना आया है। बाजू बाजू में बैठे और पत्र लिखते हैं कि भाई ये ठीक नहीं है, नवाब मलिक के बारे में आपने जो यहाँ आपके साथ बैठा है उनके ऊपर ऐसे ऐसे आरोप है, फलाना फलाना आरोप है। ये तो ढोंग है ना। आप खड़े होकर कहिए नवाब मलिक को या अजित पवार को।
Strong praise for Prime Minister Narendra Modi from the Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Russian president said he cannot imagine that Prime Minister of India could ever be intimidated by the West, even though he was aware of attempts being made by the West to intimidate India to fall in line. And this isn't the first time that President Putin has praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi's strong India first policy. Listen in.
First of all, let me say that the relations between Russia and India are consistently developing in all the areas, and the main guarantor for that is the policy led by Prime Minister Modi, His Excellency.
Russian President Vladimir Putin praising Prime Minister Narendra Modi's strong India first stance. In no uncertain terms, President Putin told the audience Narendra Modi could not be intimidated, even though he was aware that several attempts had been made to browbeat the Indian Prime Minister.
First of all, let me say that the relations between Russia and India are consistently developing in all the areas, and the main guarantor for that is the policy led by Prime Minister Modi, His Excellency. He is one of the politicians of the global scale that I was talking about previously without giving the names. I cannot imagine His Excellency Modi getting intimidated or being forced to take any steps or actions that would go against the national interests of India and the people of India. And there is pressure against him, I am aware of that.
Since the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict in 2022, the Western Bloc mounted pressure on India not to buy oil from Russia.
If you are looking at energy purchases from Russia, I would suggest that your attention should be focused on Europe, which probably we do buy some energy which is necessary for our energy security. But I suspect, looking at the figures, probably our total purchases for the month would be less than what Europe does in an afternoon.
Despite repeated coercion, India did not back down and put Indian national interest first. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar repeatedly articulated India's point of view of the Modi government putting Indian national interest first.
I think I'm entitled to have my own side. I'm entitled to weigh my own interests, make my own choices. And my choices will not be cynical and transactional, but they will be a balance of my values and my interests. There is no country in the world which disregards its interests.
Several Western countries have directly or indirectly made attempts to browbeat India in the past, including at times threatening India with sanctions to fall in line. There were reports that the US was trying to threaten India with sanctions to back down from the S-400 missile defense shield procurement from Russia. Despite threats of sanction, India went ahead with the deal, saying it predated US sanctions on Russia and was in India's interest.
India has made a decision on the S-400 and we have discussed that with the US government. And I'm reasonably convinced of the powers of my persuasion. So it would be my hope that people understand, why this particular transaction is important for us. So I think the rest of your question to me is really hypothetical.
This was not the first time that President Putin praised Prime Minister Modi. He has in the past 1 year repeatedly praised the Prime Minister for his Make in India policy.
A lot has been done in the past years under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. Naturally, he's a patriot of his country. And his idea of Make in India, it matters. Both in economic-wise and in the ethic. So India has made tremendous steps forward in development, and the future belongs to India.
India's cheaper procurement of oil from Russia, according to the government, was a win-win, not just for India, but also for the developing world, ensuring oil prices remained in check globally. And following India's example, several countries sought cheaper, discounted oil from Russia. Bureau Report, India Today. So look at his statements in the past 1 year. The future belongs to India. Cannot imagine Prime Minister Narendra Modi being intimidated. He's a patriot for his country. These are President Putin's words for Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Prime Minister's India First policy. But is it a tough tightrope walk for India? Is the West still attempting to browbeat India, to bully India to fall in line? Let's try and make sense of these statements and the implications. Joining me on this special, Tatiana Kokoreva is a journalist who joins us from Moscow. Also with me on the show, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, and Ambassador Mohan Kumar, a former top diplomat. And Tatiana, I want to begin by asking you, how is President Putin praising Prime Minister Narendra Modi being viewed in Russia? And of course, India's stance on Russia all along since the Russia-Ukraine conflict started.
Well, good evening to you. Obviously, Russia is very, we've been following the development of, India-Russia ties from here, as well as, you guys are watching what's going on back in India. And I think that the praise that President Putin gave to Prime Minister Modi is very expected, in the country, in our country, because, we appreciate just how deep the ties are between the two, and all of the, the BRICS nations, the BRICS club, which is extremely important in my view, in my personal view. And I think that for everybody in Russia who's following international politics, it's an extremely important path that we are laying together with India, with other BRICS nations.
Okay, Ambassador Kumar, is President Putin's comment, are they aimed at India, or are they may aim more at the US and NATO countries, or is he killing two birds with one stone?
Thank you very much for having me. My sense is there are three inferences which can be drawn from President Putin's statement. One, I think he is reflecting his own personal chemistry with Prime Minister Modi. They've got along well. Second, I think it's also a geopolitical statement. He's indicating to the West that you cannot browbeat India, and therefore India can stand on its own. Third, and last but not the least, I think the External Affairs Minister in his book, The India Way, had said that the multi-alignment foreign policy of India is based on engaging the United States, cultivating Europe, reassuring Russia, and bringing in Japan. I thought that he had put into practice under the leadership of the Prime Minister. The External Affairs Minister has been able to implement this mantra in the case of Ukraine. And that is why I think India's diplomacy, which I think you can see a lot of dexterity and agility in it, I would give it full marks in so far as Ukraine is concerned. It's no secret that we came under pressure from the West, but I think we stood our ground and indicated to them that there are tremendous national interests at stake and we cannot sacrifice them. So that's the way I interpret the statement of President Putin.
But let's now break this down, because you've made some very important points, as is Tatiana. Sushant Sareen, the US did try to bully India. US tried to dissuade India from either buying the S-400 system or even Russian oil. And that intimidation or those bullying tactics in some ways or the other, they still continue, Sushant Sareen.
Yeah, but look, Gaurav, I think we need to understand all diplomacy is a tightrope walk, and all countries will try and pull you in their direction to serve their own interest. And it's up to the leadership of a country, to decide which side its interests lie and how it wishes to protect its own interests, which is exactly what India has done. So yes, I don't hold it against the Americans that they will pressure us, that they will browbeat us, they'll try and bully us at times. This is what countries do. This is what powerful countries do to smaller countries, right? And compared to the US, yes, we are a smaller country. Let's make no bones about it. But then how do you stand up for your own rights? How do you stand up for your own interests? And that is exactly what we have done. The point is that, whether it's the S-400 missile system, or it's the oil. And I think Dr. Jaishankar later on also made the point, many months later, in fact, that India's purchases of oil from Russia has actually been a global good, in the sense that we managed to make sure that oil prices don't go up. We managed to ensure that oil supplies continue. And in fact, the countries which have imposed sanctions on the Russians are actually buying the finished product from us.
Oh, absolutely.
And then taking care of their own economies and, their own heating and their own people. So,
and that's one part of the story. But Tatiana, is Russia now too indebted to China? Will Russia respect both relationships in the times ahead? Or is there a tilt towards China now?
Well, I've heard this, I've heard these accusations many times now, especially concerning the situation unfolding in Israel, between Israel and Gaza. But unfortunately, I don't believe that we have any grounds to talk about any kind of disbalance in this relationship. I mean, Russia has been valuing, has been respecting both relationships with India and China. Those are very different relationships, as I might add. And also, if you look again at the BRICS platform, then you can see that even India and China, despite the fact that it's a turbulent relationship, but it's a relationship nonetheless. It's a difficult one, but it's still developing. And both, it's not as simple as choosing one side against the other. I would say that this is a very kind of American way of looking at the situation. It's either one or the other. I believe that Russia's relationship with both countries are extremely important, and we've been doing very well at balancing them.
Okay, it's not one at the cost of the other.
I would love to hit on the...
But let me take that to Ambassador Kumar. Is there a genuine apprehension, Russia dependent, as some argue, more on China, especially after sanctions and the Russia-Ukraine conflict? And is there an apprehension that in the years ahead, it may not be that close a strategic partner as Russia was in the past?
I think there are three things that needs to be underlined, I think. The first thing is that there is no question in my mind that Russia has become more dependent on China over the last 2-3 years. No question at all. The trade figures and the other figures will support that. The second thing the second point I'd like to make is that I think Putin's statement is also aimed at China. The Putin's statement that Prime Minister Modi is tough and that he's not going to sacrifice his interests, the statement that he makes about Russia-India relations is also a subtle message to China that, listen, we also do strategic hedging. We would like to have good ties with both China and India, so don't expect us to become a completely junior partner to China. I think the Russian country, the Russians are too proud. It's a big country. We don't know what will happen to the conflict in Ukraine, so I'm not able to exactly look into the crystal ball and see what kind of a country Russia will become. But things remaining the same, Gaurav, I don't expect Russia to completely accept the status of a junior partner to China for a very long period of time. And I think that is why India has valuable leverage vis-a-vis Russia as well.
It's interesting you should say that. When Sushant Sareen, your appreciation of Russia's ties with India vis-a-vis Russia's ties with China, given the friction at the line of actual control since 2020.
Yeah, but I think, Gaurav, when we raise this question, and yes, I think we are entitled to raise this question because we have a serious problem with China. But, you know, when we ask the Russians to choose between us and China, it's like somebody asking us to choose between Russia and the US. Now, just as we have a trade of what, $150 billion with the Americans and just about, or a fraction of that with Russia, that does not mean that our relations with Russia are any less important than our relations with the US. Similarly, when you look at Russia's relationship with China, yes, there is a certain amount of, and that economic dependency is deepening, and it is there. But that does not mean that, you know, Russia has absolutely, you know, doesn't find any utility in building up its relationship with India. So I think that is going to happen. Similarly, on the whole balancing act, the Americans do it with us, don't they? For example, they are not going to break off their relationships with any third country with which we have very testy relations simply because, you know, they are getting close to us. Similarly, to expect that the Russians would do something similar is not going to happen. The problem, however, will come if in the event our relationship with the Chinese goes further south and there is some kind of conflict along the borders, and then we are dependent upon the Russians for some of our military supplies. Will those supplies be forthcoming in time for our own purposes or not? Will the Chinese lean upon the Russians? Will the Russians accept that pressure? I think those are very serious questions which continue to occupy us. But other than that, purely on the diplomatic thing, you know, to expect a binary kind of a relationship.
No, but that's a very important point that you raise, and perhaps that is something that military planners, and that is why this big push on Make in India, because Tatiana, God forbid, if India-China relations worsen, and if we need more military hardware or equipment or spares or replenishments, and Russia either is unwilling or unable to provide to India and is under pressure from China, where does that take the relationship?
Well, look, that is a huge speculation, and it's a very scary speculation, to say the least, to even suggest that this relationship between India and China goes that much further south. You know, first and foremost,
okay, give me a moment as we try and reestablish that link with you, but let me take that to Ambassador Kumar. Ambassador, does the West continue to try and browbeat India or intimidate India? For example, this latest investigation and the FBI chief coming to India with that Pannu case or that other instance with Canada with the Nijjar case. Is the West trying to intimidate India and wean us away from Russia?
I would not use the word intimidate or browbeat. After all, with the United States, we now have a close strategic partnership, and it's a multifaceted strategic partnership. But I would say, yes, there are conversations surrounding areas where we have disagreements with the United States, and the United States will always seek to advance their interest as we seek to do ours. So I do not see a direct correlation between, let's say, our ties with Russia, for example, and the Panun case or the Nijjar case. I would hesitate drawing a straightforward link between the two, but we need to understand that relationships have to find a certain level, and there are disagreements even among very, very close strategic partners. My sense is that India now finds itself in a position where differences can be managed. And the whole mantra of multi-alignment is that with the United States, you try to engage them, manage your differences. China, you keep them at bay, you cultivate the EU, and then you try to preserve what the relationship with Russia stands for, which is essentially supply of defense platforms. Okay. So for the time being, we are doing a wonderful job. And I wouldn't engage in too much of hypotheticals, Gaurav. We'll just have to take one step at a time.
Fair enough. Point taken, sir. Sushant Sareen, President Putin's reading of Prime Minister Narendra Modi perhaps a little better than President Biden's administration's reading of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, whether it's the Pannu case or the Nijjar case. There's no browbeating India to fall in line?
No, I don't think there's any doubt about the fact that President Putin, whatever compliments he's pays, which is a little unusual, especially the way somebody like him pays compliments. He's not exactly known for giving a lot of compliments to people. So which is nice. But look, there could be a certain amount of diplomatic gamesmanship also involved in it. It kind of puts us in a bit of a spot that the Russians, are in so much in love with you. What do the Americans do with us? But I don't think that there is, and I'm not going after, behind what the American lapdog media, the New York Times, etc., say about India. But by and large, I've seen that, with the current Biden administration also, our relationships are pretty strong. In fact, you've seen the kind of body language when the two leaders meet, the kind of engagements and the expanding sphere of engagements that we have with the Americans. That would not be happening if there was deep reservations about the kind of leadership there is in India. And I think the Americans, like many others, understand that there is a very strong possibility that they might have to continue to deal with this government for another 5 years, and maybe even more.
Okay.
So are they going to simply turn their face away simply because they might not agree with some of the things Mr. Modi and his party stand for? Just as we are not in agreement with everything that the American administration, the current administration, or the American political system espouses. I don't think we agree with a whole lot of things they do.
Fair enough. So it's being multi-aligned.
Is it?
And are we therefore perhaps in a sweet spot or the sweetest spot possible and need to just build on that? I've run out of time. I haven't run out of questions. There's a lot more that we need to talk about perhaps in the days and weeks ahead. But Tatiana, Ambassador Kumar and Sushant Sareen, as always, many thanks for joining me. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.
सभा डॉक्टर निशिकांत दुबे सांसद द्वारा संसद सदस्य श्रीमती महुआ मोत्रा के विरुद्ध सदन में प्रश्न पूछने के बदले नकदी में प्रत्यक्ष संलिप्तता के संबंध में दिनांक 15 अक्टूबर 2023 को दी गई शिकायत पर आचार संहिता की पहली रिपोर्ट पर विचार के उपरांत समिति के निष्कर्षों को स्वीकार करती है कि सांसद श्रीमती महुआ मोत्रा का आचरण अनैतिक और संसद सदस्य के रूप में अशोभनीय है और इस कारण उनको लोकसभा सदस्य बने रहना उपयुक्त नहीं होगा। इसलिए संकल्प करती है कि उन्हें लोकसभा की सदस्यता से निष्कासित कर दिया जाए। जो सदस्य इस प्रस्ताव के पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो विरोध में ना कहें, मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ। हाँ वालों के पक्ष में प्रस्ताव स्वीकृत हुआ।
ये बेबुनियाद तथ्यों पर आधारहीन और श्रेप और श्रेप बदले के भावने से ये किए गए हैं, ठीक नहीं। रोजाना सदन के अंदर सत्तारूढ़ पार्टी खासकर मोदी जी महिलाओं की महिमान्वित करने आ रहे हैं, गुणगान हो रहे हैं। और देखिए आज ये नए सदन में सबसे पहले महिलाओं को बलि पे चढ़ाया गई। बलि पे चढ़ाया ये सरकार जिन्होंने रोजाना महिलाओं की महिमान्वित करते हुए अपने चुनावी वोट बैंक को और मजबूत करना चाहते हैं।
Weather forecast now.
Delhi, maximum 25 and minimum 12 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 28 and minimum 25 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 27 and minimum 18 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 26 and minimum 20 degrees. Chennai, maximum 29 and minimum 25 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 28 and minimum 17 degrees.
Kerala's public health. All political parties traveling from different parts.
Armed with facts,
Looking at political black.
she takes the news by its horns.
Do you think the future of these students are not hampered?
Fierce, bold, and direct, setting the tone for the biggest stories from every corner and every angle. Expect nothing but the unfiltered truth.
News first, niceties later. Watch me, Nabila Jamal, on India Today.
Once the results are out, all roads from the election states lead to Delhi. Whether the BJP or the Congress, when it comes to selecting the CM, the final call, one might even say the only call, is taken by the High Command. All eyes are on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Amit Shah and JP Nadda as they decide who will take the reins in the three heartland states won by the BJP. On Thursday, the Prime Minister met the BJP parliamentary party members behind closed doors. While no words were spoken on the big question, there was a flurry of activity in the capital. Former Rajasthan CM Vasundhara Raje, former MP and new Rajasthan MLA Balaknath, former Union Minister and new Chhattisgarh MLA Renuka Singh, all had meetings lined up with the top brass. There are speculations that Team Modi may opt for fresh faces in the heartland states, effecting a generational change. For the Congress, it was an easy decision. Having fought the elections with Revant Reddy as the face of the campaign, the party picked him for CM as expected. The call, of course, was made by the High Command after the customary one-line resolution passed by the MLAs requesting the leadership to decide. But in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, the Congress High Command has not been able to pick a younger leadership despite wanting to do so for many years now.
Many great leaders add significance to this ceremony.
Out of power for 2 terms at the centre, the Congress High Command of Mallikarjun Kharge and Gandhi family stand weakened, unable to quell even revolts by regional satraps. The two high commands are a study in contrast. The Congress decentralized but indecisive, and that is one of the areas where Modi's leadership wins the match hands down. Bureau Report, India Today.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 25 and minimum 12 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 28 and minimum 25 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 27 and minimum 18 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 26 and minimum 20 degrees. Chennai, maximum 29 and minimum 25 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 28 and minimum 17 degrees.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart